All right. Cool. Okay. So, welcome to the Inspired Idiot Show, Kennedy. I asked you to come on here today because, like I said, this show is for inspired idiots, and we consider anybody an inspired idiot who just like it's just somebody that knows that they want a different kind of life and they don't really know how to get there, but they're like, I'm just gonna figure it out. So it's my belief that like every successful person was once just an inspired idiot. So that's who we make content for. And I really like just talking to people that have done something that inspires me and just kind of get them to share that story. But I really like focusing on things like the failures along the way and the fears and like all those moments of like, I have no idea what I'm doing because I really think we need to see more of that in entrepreneurship, especially. But I also like people to know that Inspired Idiots is not just about business. It's really about just figuring out like what holds people back from even starting to pursue the thing that they want. So I'm going to ask you questions about like how you got into your business and kind of your Inspired Idiots journey if you're up for that.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So I want you just to kind of like introduce yourself. Like I know that you basically went from, the employee life to starting your own business, your own small business locally, and then now you've also created the Entrepreneur Mental Health Association, which is how you and I got connected.
Mm.
So, can you give us like a just kind of like how that all happened for you?
Yeah, I guess it actually kind of starts when I lived in Edmonton. I started my career out there in dog grooming. How I kind of got into it was actually suggested to me by my mom. And as soon as she actually said it, it was never something I really thought about at first, but as soon as it was suggested to me, something in me was just like, this is what I'm going to do. So I ended up quitting the jobs that I was working at there and started working at some salons and stuff and started doing my apprenticeship there.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how I mostly got started into the dog grooming world. And then I had to move back home, and we had a family illness. And so I moved home. And as time passed, I realized that I kind of wanted to just put my roots back down here in my hometown. That wasn't really my original plan. I loved it out in Alberta. But once I set my roots down and I decided that this is the route I wanted to go, actually, a crazy funny story. I actually called another dog grooming salon at the time to see if they were hiring and stuff, and they never got back to me. So I said, okay, well, I'll just start my own thing then. And so that's kind of how, yeah, Kenny's Canine got started. I got started in McGregor. It started off part time. I thought I would just work like Saturdays. Like I didn't really think it was going to be like crazy busy. I was like in a great way successfully wrong. Within a couple months, I went down part time at my full time job to keep up with the demand in McGregor. Which, if you're not from McGregor, McGregor is a population of like less than 1,000 people. It's a very small town, but I was booking 3 days a week for like between 8 to 10 hour days. And so within that first year of owning my business, I decided I wanted to open up a second location in Portage and kind of go all in. So that same year, I quit my full-time job. I bought a house and opened up a second location and then just kind of went all in. So for the first few months, once I opened up my second location in Portage, I was kind of still the only employee. We were doing daycare and some training and that sort of stuff because I had this huge dream of having the facility that offered it all because there really wasn't anything like that in our area. So that was kind of my goal within Portage La Prairie. And, in a way, I did do that. I had the daycare, I had the grooming, I had the training. I eventually hired some staff to do the daycare side of things, and I had someone do the training, and I continued to do the grooming. But it just went so busy so fast, and so it took me quite a few years before I was able to find other groomers to come in to help me. But yeah, I guess it's been 8 years now. I still have the two locations. I've actually kind of changed my business quite a bit over the years. I've had a lot of learning curves and realized that the big facility of that I always envisioned of having just wasn't reality for me anymore. And I think a lot of that came from just how hard it was and realizing that there were certain aspects of my business that I wasn't enjoying anymore. And so I actually ended up closing a lot of those services. So we closed the daycare, we closed the training, and now we just offer exclusive grooming, which was honestly the best decision for me and my business actually. And that's kind of, yeah, how I've gotten started. And that's kind of where I'm at today. I have two other full-time groomers and then myself, and then we have another trainee on the go right now as well too that will be going to school in the fall sometime.
Yeah. Wow. I did not know. I mean, I wanted to, and I am going to ask you about the Entrepreneur Mental Health Association because that's how you and I got connected.
Yes.
But I like just imagining doing that all in such a short span to be like, I'm going to leave my full time job. I'm going to buy a home. I don't know if it was your first home, but
It
like
was,
huge
yeah.
purchase. Okay. Holy shit. And then I'm also going to open my own business. Did you ever have, I mean, I'm sure you did, but like, did you ever have moments where you sat back and you're like, holy shit, I'm doing really huge moves here?
Yeah, totally. And like at the same time though, I knew it was a lot, but it also felt really natural for me. It just felt like I believe that there's certain people that have entrepreneurship and there's certain people that just don't have it. And I truly believe it's just a natural thing. I don't think it's a skill that you can honestly develop in a way. I think you're rather an entrepreneur or you're not. And I just think I do have, I have people like my grandpa and my dad who very business mindset, so that definitely has helped. Obviously you get it from somewhere, from someone. So I do, I think that's a huge part of it. But yeah, like it was like I didn't realize at the time, like being as young as I was, like I was only like 22, 23 when this was all going on. But I just knew, like, I knew I was going to be successful because that's what I wanted to do. And so, yeah, I just kind of went for it and it just felt natural to me.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there are some people that just like naturally have that entrepreneurial drive, but I think
Mhm.
there's also a lot of people that like I did not grow up with entrepreneurs in my family, so to break out of the kind of life that I thought I was going to live or like
Mhm.
also the kind of life that like school really prepares you for. Like
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that school really prepares people to be employees. So when you
Yeah.
kind of make that switch into no, I'm going to build something for myself, you really have to like unlearn a lot of what school taught you and it's
Yeah.
very for me it's still like very uncomfortable
Hmm.
sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah, but that's actually why you and I connected because I started looking into like entrepreneur communities, entrepreneur like mental health resources because mental health is just something that I've always felt pretty comfortable talking about and like public speaking and stuff.
Mhm.
And it was a mutual, I think a contact that I had collaborated with before that was like, hey, you should check out the, I guess, EMHA. Is that the
Yes.
acronym? And I was like, how is there something called the Entrepreneurs Mental Health Organ Association? And I do not know about it. So I reached out to you and we got connected. And I basically was just like, I want to be involved. But so if you had to explain to somebody in the sixth grade what the point of the EMHA is,
Yes.
how would you try to explain that?
If I was talking to a sixth grader and to explain to them about what EMHA is, the Entrepreneur Mental Health Association, I would say is that we're a nonprofit organization that is building up to be able to provide like support and resources for business owners and entrepreneurs, and also educate people on if they're going into the entrepreneurship world, how to take care of your mental health and how to have a mental health plan a part of your regular business plan.
Nice. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of something that like Like I never opened a physical business. So I didn't ever go through the process of making a business plan. But for somebody that is maybe considering starting their own business or is like, I have no idea what a business plan entails, what I guess like what about the current way we do business plans made you think that no, there's like a need for this? Like mental health isn't incorporated in this at all.
I think it came from just like my own experience. Before I started my business, mentally, I would say I'm very careful of how I word this. In a way, I guess I was lucky or not resilient, but in my life, I didn't struggle with my mental health. Like I've had grief, I've had trauma, I've had hard things happen in my life, but I never felt it got to the extent of mental health illnesses or challenges. And taking a hard look at where my life has changed and how I actually have changed as a person in the last 8 years, and how where my mental health problems and situations come from, it comes from my business. And so when I was in the deep of my mental health challenges, I thought to myself, would I have had these challenges if I started my business? Like, what are the chances I would have had these challenges if I didn't start my business and I was just a regular employee? And why did nobody tell me that was a possibility? Because as I got talking to more business owners, they all felt the same way. Nobody thought they were going to go into entrepreneurship and think that they were going to develop imposter syndrome and depression and anxiety from it. That isn't something that's on any business plan. That's not on any warning label when you decide to be a business owner. Like I remember when I started, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. Like, you hear those words, but no one's going to say, hey, like these are some situations that can occur. And how are you going to take care of yourself? What is your plan? Who is your support system? Like nobody asked those questions. So I guess it all came from honestly just looking at my life when I was in the really deep dark of it, and realized that yeah, there's something missing here, and like this is serious. Like this needs to be talked about, and there needs to be plans put in place.
Yeah, and it's even just like what you said, like kind of giving people a bit of a heads up of like, hey, you're gonna have periods where you feel like you're just taking L's, like you're just losing. Like I that's really like what drove me to make this content and to talk to people and use the words like inspired idiots, because I honestly think that if you look at what small percentages of businesses actually make it in that like they stay in business longer than 5 years, which kudos to you, you're 8 years in, so you're already past that stat.
Thank
But if
you.
you look at how many businesses fail, it's like yes, it usually is because like they couldn't get enough customers or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But I also think that in online business, especially, the number one reason why I've seen people's businesses fail is just because they gave up because they convinced themselves that they had already failed.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear that from people in all ways, shapes, and forms, is that like they just got so down on themselves because they felt like it wasn't working. And a lot of times it's just that they were still in the process of figuring out how to make it work, but there was nobody there telling them that, being like, hey, it's okay, you're failing, but that means that you're actually doing it. You're doing something right. It just is hard right now.
Yeah.
So if you had some kind of plan in place just to know, like, okay, I know that I'm going to go through periods of that, it would probably better equip a lot of people to start a business.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think will help people equip before starting a business, but also when they're in the middle of it. And if they have something already pre thought out and written down of like, this scenario is going to happen to me or possibly can happen, what was my plan if I was to go through this? And I think those hard questions need to happen, like those feelings of failure or financial or any of those tough things that go on in business. Pandemic first, like that's a hard thing to plan for, but like if those questions were asked, and you have some sort of idea of how you're going to take care of yourself. Again, who's your support system? um, how are you going to take care of yourself? What's the work life balance is going to look like during those times? I think those are just some things that need to be thought about, regardless if it's a physical business or an online business. I think if you're going into any factor of entrepreneurship, every every business is different, but we're also so similar at the same time. And I think all those questions of, a mental health business plan works for any type of business and any type of entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really just like I find so much of entrepreneurship does come back to mental health, and we kind of just use
Mm-hmm.
different words for it, like mindset or motivation or discipline or whatever. But like it all comes back to the state of your mental well-being.
Yeah.
So I think that like there probably are people out there that think that including mental health in a business plan is like fluffy or whatever, or they're like, oh, it's silly. But I think
Mm-hmm.
everything we do comes back to our mental state, so it's worth not ignoring.
Absolutely. And I think too, it's recognizing the differences. Like, am I just going through a difficult situation right now? Example, like your building got broke into and your stock is all. Is this just like a temporary difficult situation? Or am I going through a long term, like this is affecting my sleep, this is affecting my relationships, this is affecting my health? Like, I think it's too is also thinking about the difference of when it is just hard entrepreneurship times and how it's this is a mental health thing. I think it's really important to differentiate the differences of that, because I feel like sometimes mental health words kind of get thrown out there nowadays. And I think too, like especially with business and entrepreneurship, it's recognizing the differences of when this is just entrepreneurship and this is something more serious and we need to address this kind of thing.
Hmm. Right, when it goes just beyond like a temporary situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some things that like, because I know it's very in the works, and the EMHA plan is being worked on right now, but are there any things that you, having been like you were somebody who made a business plan, do you have any ideas for like certain things that you know are gonna go in there?
Oh, that's a great question. I think some of the big ones would be like who's going to be your support system. That's I
Mhm.
think a huge one. Um, I making plans in place on what self-care activities you need to do for yourself, whether that be physical or spiritual. Um, I think some other questions that will be in there is great question. I'm trying to think of some of the ones I've thought of. Um, yeah, I think also just including in it like financial supports. So who's going to be your like bookkeepers, your accountants, your financial advisors to help you navigate through taxes and stuff? Because again, I think back to like most people that go into entrepreneurship didn't go to business school. So, on the financial side of things, who's going to be there to answer your questions? And I think it should be more than just one person. I think that it needs to include your accountant, your banker, and your bookkeeper. I think having those names all together for you to feel 100% comfortable asking those questions to, I think that needs to be included in it as well. But yeah, those are just like some examples, but I think it's going to be as it gets going and stuff here. I know it's going to be a lot longer of a booklet, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you kind of touched on some good things there, and it reminded me I was like hanging out with some other entrepreneurs locally the other day, and one of the guys said if I could give any new entrepreneur advice, it would be get a good accountant or bookkeeper and get a good lawyer,
Yeah.
because he's also like he owns local businesses and he's recently bought a couple businesses. So there's like law dealings
Yeah.
that happen in there. And he said, if you have a good accountant that you trust and have a good relationship with, and you have a good lawyer that you trust and have a good relationship with, that's already going to take so much of the stress. Like again, he's in
Yes.
the local business field. Um, but I think just like learning those kind of basics can really help you with a lot of what would end up being mental health and stress. Is like, for example, right now I'm reading the book Profit First by Mike McAllowitz.
Okay.
I had a mentor mention to me that she thinks it's one book that like every entrepreneur should read,
Mm,
because it kind of teaches you just like at a very basic level what you should do with the money your business earns, because a lot of new entrepreneurs just have like one bank account, and you know the
yeah.
money comes in and they pay expenses out of it, and then they don't really always know like where their money goes, or like what profits they're making, or like why they work for themselves but they feel like they're paying themselves less than minimum wage. It's because they're just kind of winging it.
Mhm.
So basically that profit first system just teaches people like, hey, have 5 different bank accounts for your business, and every time you get paid, you put a certain percentage in each account. And so you're setting some aside for taxes, you're setting some aside to pay yourself, you're setting some aside for your operating expenses. And like as I'm reading this book, I feel like I'm already learning about business in a way that I kind of thought like I wish I had learned this from the get-go, because then I
Yeah.
might not feel so much stress around money. Because
Mhm.
I think that's particularly where a lot of business owners feel that stress and that like anxiety is like
Yeah.
it almost always comes back to money.
Absolutely. And like I feel like too with money, depending on how you're raised and how you're learned to talk about it, there's this like hidden shame about money. And I feel like when you are struggling financially in your business owner, there's this like something on your back saying you are a bad business owner because you're struggling financially right now, where it's maybe not that you're making bad financial decisions, it's maybe because this month you had to pay $5,000 in taxes and now you're stressed about money. That doesn't make you a bad business owner. That's just a shitty every 3 months sort of situation. And I know I feel like that every 3 months. I'm like, you know. But yeah, like I think there's this like hidden shame feeling about it, that like if you're struggling financially because of certain situations or slow times or whatever, you instantly start to feel like a bad business owner. You feel like a bad entrepreneur, or and that's just definitely not the case at all.
Yeah, yeah, just because you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
That actually reminded me. I don't know if you've ever heard of the YouTube channel School of Hard Knocks. It's like a young guy who just goes around interviewing very successful people. And he was talking the other day about like some of the most common things that he's heard from like billionaires when he asks them for advice. And he said one of the things that stuck with him is that very, very, very successful people think in like decades, not just years. So they're
Mhm.
always thinking about what am I trying to build for the future. And so I think that what you're doing and like building out this business plan and including that kind of like mental health component of it will just kind of give people that like a way to think about what am I building, what am I making for the future, and what are some of the kind of speed bumps that I can expect, so that when I'm in those low points I can almost lean on that, knowing like, okay, I knew this was going to happen. This doesn't mean that I need to quit because I'm failing. We knew that this was going to, happen at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of said that you had some entrepreneurial influences in your family, so it felt a little bit more like almost natural for you to get into business. But
Mhm.
when you were like, was there a point in you building your business when you felt like you were really, really taking a big risk?
Yeah, I think definitely like quitting my full-time job to go in full times, especially buying a house at the same time, maybe was a little risky, because I was the only like income, right? I didn't live with anyone at that time. I didn't have roommates. Like it was me. Like I was in charge of my income for my personal life. I was in charge of income for my business. So that was pretty heavy to carry on me. Like I'd be working Saturdays and my friends are at the beach. Like those things happened. And that was hard. But obviously, like it's now I am in a position I only have to physically be at my business a couple of days a week. And so where my friends are working Monday to Friday sort of thing. And so, there's highs and lows to it, of course, but I still remember when I decided I was going to open up my first location here in McGregor. My dad, my grandpa, like people thought I was crazy. I remember I even received like fake phone calls, like prank phone calls, like people saying they wanted like their pigs and their cows groomed, because I think it was just like this joke in town. Like honestly, I think people thought I was ridiculous. Like what is she doing opening up a dog grooming salon in a rural community? I think that is just kind of like maybe just small town, but I saw, my age group where their dogs are their life. Like everybody has a dog. And if I am the only person in a population of 1,000 people, I have 1,000 clients because, I don't know the actual statistics, but I bet you it's 4 out of 5 households have animals, and they're not going to drive a half an hour to Portage if they don't have to. They're going to come right to me, and so yeah, like that was risky, but it's obviously paid off. Like I am in McGregor 2 days a week, and I am booking 4 weeks out at a time. So obviously that risk was worth it, but yeah, it was definitely scary at the time for sure.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit of small town mentality too, for
Oh,
sure.
for
I
sure.
so many people that I've learned from in the online space talk about how just like how much their world opened up when they left the town they grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's always necessary. Like you don't always have to move away to do what you want to do, but I think just kind of giving yourself that space to realize like, oh, is this a belief that I think is actually true, or is it a belief that I have because I grew up in a small town with other people who hold that belief?
Yeah, absolutely. And because I lived in such a huge city for 4 years, and I was in the dog industry for almost a year, I saw the potential of it. So people in my area didn't see that. And
Mm.
I just had to trust my gut on it. Like I just kind of drowned out that noise, and it was like, no, like I know this is going to work. Like, and when I know something and I feel confident in it, there's no changing my mind at all. So,
Yeah. Well, and
mhm.
I'm also a believer that I try to not take advice from people whose life I do not want.
Yeah, I love.
So, yeah, that's kind of I remind myself of that often when I get criticism from people. And like even
Yeah,
recently, my husband and I have started posting content about the business that we're trying to build because our goal is to build like a massive massive greenhouse business where we can be like enjoying tropical fruit in the middle of winter and like make it big enough that other people from the area when they want to kind of get a break from the winter can like come to the oasis basically.
I love.
So it's super exciting and I love thinking about it. But to a lot of people, that's an extremely unrealistic goal. And there
It.
are a lot of people that immediately come out of the woods to be like, that's not going to work. You guys are going to go broke trying to heat that thing before you make any money. And like it's just so funny seeing people try to like project their doubts onto you
Yeah,
and you're like, all right, just watch me then. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny to receive advice from people that are not a business owner and have and do not work in that field that you're trying to pursue. Like like for me, it's like to take advice from a farmer about my dog grooming business. It was like, I don't think that's gonna work for me, you know. So it's like you taking advice from me. I don't know anything about greenhouses, you know. Like, so yeah, I think that ties into. It's funny to hear people's advice when they have no idea what it is that you are doing.
Yeah, but I think that comes with like that ability to kind of pause and reflect before you immediately buy into a belief is something that you
Yes,
kind of have to work on a little bit. So
absolutely.
like for you, did you find that there were any like beliefs or mindsets that you kind of had to I guess like deconstruct or shed in order to get like where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. Like I definitely struggle a lot with drowning out like almost like the background noise of like what is this person going to think of this decision that I went to school with in grade 10? Like why am I thinking of those people? Why am I thinking of, Bob from Range Road 321? Like it's just sometimes I get caught up in those moments where I'm like, well, what are people going to think of this decision? But then I just kind of like think to myself, like, when have I ever not done something that I want to do? Like, I've never kind of been the person to really listen to anyone but myself. So yeah, I think that has been a struggle, is just kind of, I guess imposter syndrome is something that I would kind of word it as, is just, yeah, like just believing in myself, believing in what I feel is right, what I think works. And yeah, just kind of going for it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't think you can like talk about entrepreneurship without talking about imposter syndrome at some point.
Totally. Yeah, even just like when EMHA came to mind, like I sat on that for months and I was just like, this is such a great idea, but I don't think I should be the person to do it. I think someone else should do it. And I sat with it for a really long time. And it took a lot of like getting over that fear of, and telling myself, like, why can't it be me? Why shouldn't it be me? Like, also, it was the fear of, like, I'm going to have to actually be honest about what I went through. I have to be honest about, what I do go through or what I have gone through, not just within like my business, but also be open about my mental health challenges. And that is very scary because I'm not a public person on in my personal life. And the way to get something out and for people to understand is for them to relate to. So that's something I'm still working on of being more open about it, doing things like this, social media, talking at events and that sort of stuff. That's, I think, going to still come with practice and time. But yeah, even just starting EMHA, like it was really hard. I almost didn't do it because I didn't really feel like I was the right person to do it.
So, what do you think those stories were that you were telling yourself about why you're not the right person to do it?
Um, like the bad stories I was telling myself.
Yeah, like if you
Yeah.
could put yourself back into that place where you were like, I have this idea, but I don't think I'm the person to do it. Why did you think you weren't the person to do it? Like you thought somebody else who's more qualified to talk about mental health should do it, or
Yeah, I felt like I didn't want to talk wrongly about mental health because over the just even the last 5 years, like that the topic of mental health has just become a more common topic and I didn't want to get it wrong. And I felt like I'm not educated in this enough. And what if I say the wrong term in the wrong way? And I didn't want to do that. So I have done a lot of like courses and learning about it so that when I do speak on it, that I speak it properly. And also just like an internal struggle is that I really struggle with how I feel about how smart I am and my intelligence because, I didn't go to post secondary school. I didn't do great in school. I'm dyslexic. I struggled in school just in general. I still struggle with just day to day life educational stuff when it comes to math and writing and English. And I'm very self conscious about that stuff. And so that was just a huge part of it too, just not feeling smart enough to do it as well.
yeah. I honestly still have moments of that. Like even like I told you, I'm reading that Profit First book and I really like how much they've dumbed it down, but there's still moments where I'm like this is over my head. Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand this. And
Hmm.
I sometimes, like, my husband has been in the entrepreneur world longer than I have. And sometimes I feel like I probably ask him a lot of really stupid questions. But
Yeah.
I've also, I really, really believe that being willing to ask stupid questions and being willing to be wrong is like a massive, massive part of finding success, not just in entrepreneurship, but just in whatever you're trying to do. If you're
Hmm.
willing to have curiosity and ask questions about something, to be like, I want to understand how this works, and you're willing to get it wrong and say, like, I'm not an expert at this. And like the thing that really helps me, especially with making content around mental health, is not taking the stance of like, this is how you should do it or this is how it should be. I always talk about my experience. So I'm like, this
Hmm.
is how I did this, as opposed to being like, this is how you should.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like great advice for anybody, honestly.
Yeah, but especially with mental health, because I get it that you're like, I don't want to upset people by like using the wrong terminology or making it
Hmm.
seem like I'm like downplaying the severity of it. But if you just
Hmm.
talk from your experience, your story, what about your experience moved you enough
Yeah.
to found EMHA? That's all that people will need to know to like connect and relate to it and get what you want them to get out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And like another thing I try to like think about too is that if they don't agree with it, they don't have to see it, kind of
Hmm.
thing. And I just got to remind myself that the people that are going to be that relate to it the most are going to be the people that are going through it or understand or have gone through it. So I'm just trying to concentrating on those and not thinking about the ones that aren't
Mhm.
gonna understand. So that's always a learning curve too. It's crazy how we always think of the people that aren't gonna support it and aren't gonna like it, where it's like, why are we not thinking of the people that are gonna love this service or love this product? Like, why are we always thinking about the ones that aren't? It's just wild why our brains do that.
Yeah, that it definitely is. It's I was talking about this the other day that like it's the same as, you know, why so many self-help people and gurus will tell you to like gratitude
Yeah.
journal. Because if you don't do things like practice gratitude, your brain's default is to focus on what's not working and what you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you lack. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing, right? It's just the
Yeah.
negativity bias.
It's so crazy that like we're talking about this because my husband and I we were just talking about this last night and he said to me and we were talking about a situation and he's like I want you to try something and he's like I need you to start trying to say instead of saying I know this person feels this way, I know this is gonna happen, he says try like resetting your brain to say like I feel like this is being said about me, or I feel like this could happen, or, you know, he's like, you're already thinking that it's negative, negative, negative. And he's like, try reprogramming, try rewording it to just help you do that. And I hate it when he's right. I'm just like,
Yeah. Oh man.
damn. I was like,
He
yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll give
yeah.
that a go. I need to give that a go because I do that. I'm like, I know this is going to happen. It's just, this is going to be bad. It's going to be this. And he's like, how about you think that it might go bad? You feel like it's going to go bad because of X, Y, and Z. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that is something that we all could work on. But I know me especially.
Yeah. There's two things that I thought of there is, and I literally, this is so funny that we're having this like serendipitous moment here because I was literally saying this to a client today because she was just saying like she's considering like starting her online business and she's really, really focused on just all the ways it might not work out. She's
Yeah,
like, my dad doesn't seem that into it. So like, I don't think that he thinks I should do it. And then like what if like you know a month from now my kids are going to go back to school and like all these things that she's like I'm imagining all the reasons why it's not going to work. And I
yeah,
said to her, I was like, it sounds like you are leaning into the worst case scenario,
hmm,
but if you had to choose like which one you want to put your energy into because you are in full control here of whether or not you do this, like you can put your energy into the best case scenario or you can put your energy into the worst case scenario. So where do you want to put that energy?
yeah,
But the other thing too is I definitely agree with your husband. Something that a mentor said to me once that has literally always stuck in my brain is that when you perceive that other people are judging you, it is almost always like 99.9% of the time it's you judging yourself and you
hmm,
are just projecting that judgment onto them.
yeah,
So when you find yourself feeling that way, I find like I literally will practice this. I'm like, is that do I know 100% with no doubt that that person actually thinks that of me, or am I actually feeling that way about myself?
hmm, yeah.
It is
It's a
a
hard mindset to switch from.
yeah, but it's a powerful reframe.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, in terms of like going forward, what you're doing with the EMHA, what do you feel like the next kind of steps are? We're going into this phase of actually writing it, and then like I guess how does that all work in the nonprofit world where you have to get like funding and stuff for everything that you do, right?
Yeah, the nonprofit world is a whole other ball games that I am learning because in business, you have people lining up at your doors to buy a product or use your services. The nonprofit world, you are like it's a different type of fight and it's a different type of stress when it comes to financial. But I guess yeah, that you know, in the next 6 months here, I would love to see our mental health business plan be done and published. I want to get it up on our website for our members and find partnerships that want to be a part of this plan so we can get this on like almost like a hardcover print. I think that is something that should be included in like school programs, like high school programs. I would love to do presentations on this in universities and colleges and get them on board to it. I think any financial loan advisors, they should be on board with this and they should have copies of this. So the big thing is getting this book out there digitally and hard copy, and just yeah, getting it out there, getting it printed, finding a sponsor to help fund this project short term and long term. Ideally for EMHA, what I would love to do is have um, uh, like um, like certified proper like mental health educators be a part of EMHA, so that if somebody, any of our members, want to fill this booklet out with a actual therapist that will be able to really help them answer some of these questions, I want to be able to offer that free of charge for our members. I think that's really important. Or that when the time comes, they need to open up that booklet and talk to somebody that is properly educated in mental health and also understanding of the business world. I think I would like to see that in the near future for EMHA. And I'm not saying, it's a therapy session, but I think that scares a lot of people away because you feel like you need to talk about other things. But no, you just need someone that is going to maybe possibly recognize signs that you may not see yet. So if you're going through your mental health business plan with a proper mental health expert and they're seeing something, again, when we talked about earlier, the difference between, is this just entrepreneurship or is this mental health? If you're going through that and talking to somebody that is properly educated in it, they may be able to recognize signs that are currently happening and then help them before it gets worse, before you get to a point you are so depressed in your business that you can't show up, or you're having, darker thoughts. I think that should be something that I want to be available for our members.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some more resources getting done up for our members, for people to print off and use at any time. So that's also in the works. But yeah, that's kind of the booklet's kind of the big thing. That's kind of what we're going to be focusing these next 6 months to a year on. And just continuing to get our name out there, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
and find sponsorships, partners, people that are passionate about it and kind of see the future and the vision for this as much as I do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think like the going with, let me find my words here, partnering with like business schools and stuff is really
Yeah.
smart. I could totally see that jiving. And just like any business or entrepreneurial organization.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had a thought there. Oh yeah, so when you're looking at like potential like therapists and stuff to partner with, this is purely just like a thought on my end. I think it would be super, super beneficial if you could find therapists that also are entrepreneurs in
Yes,
some way. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
because I remember like I've in throughout my life I've flowed through therapy several times, and I always found that the therapist that I jived the most with was also just the therapist that was like kind of living a similar life. Like
Yeah.
I remember having a therapist that, was just a 9 to 5 like paid employee, and she was
Mm-hmm.
lovely, but I always felt like she just didn't get
Yeah.
it because she didn't have that same entrepreneurial drive. And I was like, I almost wish I could find a therapist that is an entrepreneur and like
Yeah.
started their own practice. I think that would make it really, really valuable for people. So it doesn't just feel like a therapy session. It's almost like a little bit of like mentorship in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's exactly what I want to do. And that's how actually I I built my relationship with my therapist. Is she started off working with a company, and then when she left to do her own thing, I followed her. And even I've been with her for quite a few years now, and we've talked about that during when I was going through the hardship of my business, she was still an employee, and I just felt like I couldn't even talk to her about it because she didn't understand. She doesn't get it, right? She's not an entrepreneur, she's not a business owner. But if you're talking to a therapist that literally runs their own business and their income and life is based off of their services too, and there's also, like you said, that mentorship and that relationship of understanding too. You're talking to someone that's an expert but then also just gets it as a human being as well too. And I
Yeah, I
think
think
that breaks that feeling of being alone too.
yeah, yeah, I think that's a really key part of it. And I think that's why like I oh man, I remember listening to this podcast about happiness, and she was interviewing this guy who's a psychologist and a therapist, but he specializes in therapy for the extremely wealthy, which
Mhm.
at first you're like, interesting
Yeah.
field. You know you're gonna have like good paying clients, but it was really really interesting listening to the episode because he was just talking about like how many very wealthy people are extremely depressed and like even like
Mhm.
suicidal. And he's like,
Yeah.
it's extremely common in my clients who like come into money very quickly. It's like it completely flips their whole life and they're completely isolated. But he talked about that a little bit too, that like people who are very successful or have a lot of money or who have built businesses, like they want that in their therapist because it kind of makes them take it a little bit more to heart and like have more respect for what that person's saying, because they're like, yes, this is your profession, but I also know that at a human level you know what I'm going through.
Yeah, exactly. I know. That's why I need to get on Den for EMHA and soak in some some realistic life big people that also just get it because they did also start from nothing. So that's also like on my dream board. It's like, do they take nonprofits? I don't know if they do, but if they do, I need to look into it.
Yeah, yeah. I would totally help you do that. Um,
Great.
okay, so if you had to say like for next steps for anybody that like wants to understand more about Entrepreneur Mental Health Association, or
Mhm.
anybody who maybe works for an organization that there could be a partnership opportunity, who would you say is um like an ideal organization that you would want to get involved with this?
Um, Honestly, I'm open to everyone because what I envision for EMHA long term is, and I know I kind of mentioned this, but entrepreneurship and business ownership, we're all so similar, but at the same time we're also different as just human beings. So depending on who you are as a business owner, you may have different struggles. So, for example, women are going to have different challenges over men, when it comes to maternity leave or childcare and that sort of stuff. So, I eventually want to draft into more categorized business owners and then partner with different organizations that support women's mental health, partner with organizations that support men's mental health because they may have a client base that are maybe some of their customers that are part of their men's mental health are business owners, and then they can recommend some of our services and stuff. I think if you're a part of the like LGBTQ community, you probably may have different challenges compared to someone that isn't a part of that community as a business owner. If you're definitely open about who you are and what your business supports, there's going to be people that may not agree with that, and so those are different challenges. And so I want to partner with those communities. If you're an immigrant into Canada, like you're going to have different challenges and things like that. So I want to partner with all the different types of organizations that we can collaborate so that if they're talking to somebody that has been in Canada for 10 years and they're talking to somebody and they say, I want to start a business, then they can say, hey, here's this organization. You should look at some of their support and resources. So I want to hit everybody. So there is no particular group. I have already been in touch with the Métis Business Association. I've gone to a couple of their meet and greets, and we've talked a little bit there. So I'm hoping to kind of work on something there. But I think any type of organization that supports a certain type of group of people, I think it's important for them to know about EMHAs. That again, if they are wanting to start a business or they are a business owner, then they know that there's other support that we can help with that maybe their organization isn't fully equipped to be able to help out with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. You want it to include all different perspectives of people starting a business. And this
Yeah.
isn't something that's going to be only specific to like your area in Manitoba. You
Yeah.
guys want this to eventually be accessible to people all across Canada?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The mental health business plan is going to be the foundation for everybody, but eventually I want to branch off into to more like categorized supports. So, but yeah, that's across Canada for sure.
Okay. What do you mean by categorized supports?
So like categorized by like women, men,
Oh,
communities. Like I don't know really a better word for it, but I just picture on a website and you have your different categories of support and resources, or different categories of support groups or types of people. I guess I don't know how else to really word it better,
yeah,
but um,
like olive branches kind of thing.
yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I hope to accomplish.
Yeah, okay. I think that's really important to know though, is that this isn't something that you're just making for your community. You want
No,
it to be a resource that entrepreneurs across Canada can get that will help them basically just be better equipped to build a business that actually builds the life they want it to.
yeah, absolutely. And, I want to be able to, we've done them in person when we first started in our local area, but we've done like roundtable discussions where we've had a topic and people can come in, and it's, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a roundtable conversation about work-life balance, and we talk about it, and we just kind of vent, or we bounce off ideas, and then we have somebody that comes in that's an expert in that topic. So now that I feel like I've already outgrown our area, it'll be a lot of online virtual events that we can do monthly, every few months, and that's something that we're going to start getting back into doing as well too here.
Nice. Nice. Okay, cool. So
Mm.
if people want to find out more, I'll plug the EMHA website in the show notes. Is there anything else that you would want people to know about, like how to get in contact or what resources they can get from you guys now?
Yeah, so if you are a business owner or entrepreneur, it's free to sign up to be a member of our association. And there is already a couple printable resources there you can print out at any time and fill out for yourself. It's another, just a good reminder of different ways to kind of just check in on yourself and take care of yourself. But yeah, just check out our website, and you can always email me if there's any questions or concerns or ideas. I am completely open to hearing everyone and everything's thoughts and opinions. So, because I want to see this grow and I want it to be successful. And the way to do that is by connecting with people and just being open. So, that's just, yeah, kind of what we're trying to do.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. Well, the last thing that I always like to ask people before we sign off is just if you could think back to Kennedy 8 years ago when you were first getting started, knowing like everything that you know now, if you were to give her any kind of advice or just to
Mm.
anybody that feels like an inspired idiot and is like, I want to do this, but I have no idea what I'm doing, what do you think you would tell those people?
I would say, like, no matter what, prioritize yourself first. Don't put it on the back burner, no matter what they say. If they say, oh no, you have to hustle for, and I hate that word, hustle for the next 3 years, like, no, you don't actually. You can prioritize an hour a week or hour a day for yourself. Like, you have to do it. Prioritize it. Mark it in your calendar. I always say, mark it in your calendar like it's an appointment for your kid or your pet. Because if you don't have a kid, I'm sure you have a pet. And if you're not missing that vet appointment, if it's in your calendar. And so if you just schedule it with that type of importance in mind, that it's for your child or for your pet, then you're not going to miss that appointment. And I just think if it's in your calendar and it's for yourself, if it's again the physical or spiritual or whatever it is for yourself, um, I don't think you'll cancel it if you have that mindset. So
Yeah. Rest is definitely not a an optional thing in entrepreneurship. If you don't have your health, you're not going to have your business.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may
Okay.
not be right away. It might be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Like, you don't know when it's going to hit, but when it does, you need to be strong enough and healthy enough to take care of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
mhm.
definitely. Okay, let's leave it there then. I will go ahead and stop recording. Thank you for hopping on with us today, and I will plug,
Uh,
like I said, your guys' website and everything for people in the description.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. And
Yeah.
so, will you send me